Hi everyone, it's Leon the Milkman here. So today I want to talk about cheese making principles and recipes. So we seem to have a lot of people who want to gather recipes and methods, and you see this a lot on Facebook help groups for cheese making, where people will say, "Oh, I used, John's recipe, but it didn't work for me." Uh, or stuff like that. And most times the issue is not with the recipe, it's with the person not understanding that John was using goat milk or Frisian milk, and you've got full on 5% fat Jersey milk trying to make a parmesan without taking any fat off. Stuff like that. So the point I want to make is that you've got to understand the principles. Why am I doing something? And then you can put any two cheese recipes next to each other, and based on the results that you get, you can go back and make adjustments so you do a better job next time. So if you're doing Gouda, for example, even speaking to cheesemakers, you ask them what makes a Gouda, and they'll say, well, we're washing the curd, we're doing a sweet milk process, which is basically where you remove some of the whey and you substitute it with water. So by removing whey, you're removing lactose. The bacteria, the starter culture, is converting lactose to lactic acid. So by substituting some of the whey with lactose for water, which doesn't have lactose, you basically lessen the substrate, and it's impossible for the bacteria to produce the same amount of acid because the lactose, the substrate to make the lactic acid, is not there anymore. So if you repeat this wash 3 times, you're going to have even less lactose, and your cheese will be sweeter and less acid. But we're also using a mesophilic bacteria, which is not a fast acid forming strain or strains. We can use lactase, which splits the lactose into glucose and galactose, which will give us a sweeter milk. And since we're making a sweet milk cheese, that will help us. We don't press or don't recommend pressing Gouda overnight. We have it in the press the same day, but before we press it, after we've pressed it, I want it into cold, very salty brine, saturated brine the same day, because that cold and the salt is going to hamper over acidification, and there's a number of steps that we go through, and this is true for each cheese. So don't look just at recipes, understand the principles. We once had a lady on a course, and as we were about to leave, she came to me and said she just wants to tell me that she was on another cheese making course before she came on mine, and in her hand she said, now I've got their recipe and I've got your recipe, and I'm going to make and see which one's the best. And I looked at it and I said to her, well, their recipe is better. And I could see her eyes, going like that. And I said, well, one of the things that you really want to develop with feta is maximum acidification. They're leaving the cheese outside for 3 days. And we've got a 2-day cheese course. So I can't leave my cheese outside for 3 days. So I've got a little bit of a risk that my cheese is not acid enough. So it's not about the recipes. The recipe is a guideline, but you must understand the principles to be an effective cheesemaker, and to switch. You're still aiming for that same goal, but you've got to make adjustments depending on what milk you're using, and so hope that helps you in your future cheese making. Cheers from Leon the Milkman.